Sippers, welcome to this episode of the Tea With Me podcast with me, Shane Todd. If you're watching the video version of this podcast, I'm wearing a Borussia Dortmund tracksuit top. And if you're one of the, I'd say 2 or 3 people who have messaged me before to go, mate, why do you always wear tracksuits and sports gear? Well, it's because I'm an athlete. And it's because I like to wear what I like to wear, and we're in lockdown, so why would you dress up? I put a pair of jeans on once last week and genuinely nearly passed out with heat stroke. So I'm just a guy that wears shorts right now, and that's what I'll be doing at any occasion. If I got to go to a funeral, from now on it's going to be in a pair of shorts, and chances are they'll be Man United shorts, and I'll have business at the top, and my bottom half will be very much sports. Sippers, it's a good time. I've had a haircut. People say I like to address my hair always on the podcast. Hair's looking absolutely fierce, girls, let me tell you that. And we're having a good time. I've got a guest on this week's episode. It's Aaron Butler, who's been a guest multiple times, because I got thinking about 90s films, classic comedy, that kind of thing. Jim Carrey, Robin Williams, Eddie Murphy. Aaron's a bit of an expert on classic 90s comedy, so brought him on for a bit of a chat about that, so you've got that to look forward to. Before I start the podcast, patreon.com/teawithmepodcast, where you get the bonus episode every Monday. And there's just loads of exclusive stuff on there, like gig news, merchandise, all that. Speaking of merchandise, shopify.com, Shane Todd Comedy. So just Google Shopify, Shane Todd Comedy, and you get all the podcast merch, the Sippers t-shirts, the Tea With Me podcast mugs. I haven't even got mine yet, and I'm waiting for it, and other people have got theirs, so I'm disappointed and angry at that. And there's Money Toad t-shirts as well, and I also am getting one of those sent to me, but I haven't received it yet, and other people have, and that makes me upset. But I'll get over it. So head over there if you like the idea of some merch. Also, cheers to everyone who's been like sharing clips this week. I've just taken old videos that I've done and taken like little 10, 15, 20-second clips and put them out, and it's going great. So I've just been through this morning, I don't know, 7-8 years worth of videos, and I'm clipping little bits out, and it's just reminded me how hilarious I am, and also the fact that when I lost loads of weight because of Crohn's disease, someone should have got in touch with me and been like, man, do us a favour and don't be on camera for a while, because I just kept going. And let me tell you, there was a while where I was taking a drug called azithromycin, and I'm sure that drug's done wonders for people. All it did for me was give me massive lips. So if you're a real detective and you want to go back through the Money Toad catalogue, you'll find videos where my lips come out further than I'd say 6 inches. I have very big Botox lips at one point. So yeah, cheers to people that have sent that out, and yeah, that's been a lot of fun. I said earlier in the week on the podcast that I had some gig news, and it looks like that might be put back again for a little while, but we're just waiting to see what happens. So Arlene, Michelle, I know you guys watch and listen to the podcast. Big sippers. That's the only thing they do agree on. This is the greatest podcast in Europe. If you guys are watching, do what you want with all the rest of the legislation, but just let my gigs be back on, and ideally don't let anybody else's gigs be back on. That's all I want. So I hopefully will have gig news for stand-up coming back, and we'll just have to see. I'm doing listeners' questions at the end of this. I didn't get to answer all the listeners' questions on the podcast during the week because we got 58,000 and 57,000 were about football. So I'll answer the rest of those as we get to it. But here we go. This is this week's Tea With Me podcast with my friend Aaron Butler. He's mic'd up and he's ready to go, and I'm going to hit record. In fact, I'm already recording, but I'll edit this bit out. Sippers. I'm joined by one of
Yep.
the most premier comedians in the Blacks Road area. Is that where you live?
I mean, no, kind of vaguely, but let's just tell people I live there because it's close enough to where I actually live, but it's far enough away that if people tried to find out where I live, they're not going to get me.
Well, who are you worried? Oh no, you've turned into a conspiracy theorist for someone who's so skeptical about conspiracies. You just said they're going to get you.
No, I haven't. Shout out to QAnon, but no, I haven't turned into anything. It's just, you know how it is. Shane, either way, it's good to see your face, bud.
Yeah, good to see you, man. Got a haircut. What do you think of that?
And let me tell you, I'm a big fan. Very sexy, I think we've got we're looking a little bit identical. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, mirror image. Yeah. Why are you going to my barber and asking for the Todd?
No, I like it. I'm booked in for another cut coming up in a few weeks now.
Oh.
Big event. Big event. Yeah.
I'm sure the Zippers are pretty buzzing with that one.
No. I just want everyone to know the details. It's funny how your podcast, you like to address your hair first off. That's like your first thing to do, isn't it?
Yep, that's what I like to do, and
And that's okay. Yeah.
that's why it's in the top, 17 Northern Irish podcasts. But listen, I'm kidding a second. Listen, I'm going to say this. Are you doing any of these? Last time you were on the podcast, we sort of talked the whole time about missing stand up, and are you doing any of these garden gigs?
I haven't. There's talk of maybe one or two happening. I know you did Vittorio's one, and I was chatting to Vittorio a little bit. Oh yeah, when?
Sunday, if you fancy it.
I think so. Will I message Vittorio?
Yes.
I'll do that and we'll get it sorted. But yeah, I've got that, and then there's a few other ones. I think me and you're doing the same sort of one that might be happening at the start of September.
Potentially, I don't know. I've known
potentially.
Potentially found out today not happening. This is going to be the frustrating thing where stuff gets booked in and people are like, "Hey, it's all good again," and then they get told, "Nah, you're."
Are you talking about the ones that it's like a set of ones? Or are you talking about the other one that I was thinking about? This is a thrilling content, I know.
I'm talking about the set of gigs that I asked you to do.
Okay, yeah. I was talking about the different one. Do you remember the one another person got in touch with us about? 5th of September?
Oh, yeah. Can we mention what that is, do you think? No? Or do you think they haven't announced it?
I'll just say no because in case it gets called off.
Yes, true.
But yeah, we're working on getting things going.
But it's for one of the Gaelic clubs in East Belfast.
Spoiler.
We can't say which one.
There are so many different ones. We don't want to conflict the other ones. Yeah. But yeah, there's a certain East Belfast GAA association that and look, if you can figure it out.
Do the garden gig on Sunday because I want to get gigging with it.
For sure.
Here's what I want to chat to you about, bit left field. I want to, whenever I asked you to do the pod and you were like, yes, you said I'm setting up here, I sent you a GIF because that's what 32-year-old dads do, send GIFs to other men.
Right.
Hilarious. And it was a Jim Carrey one. And that got me thinking that you're a guy that likes to work. You like your classic comedy like myself. You like your Jim Carreys, Robin Williams, Eddie Murphy. So I want us to chat briefly about that era of comedy. And I want to ask you why you think those guys in particular, or maybe it's just all performers and actors or whatever, how have they gone so out of fashion for being the number one comedy guys? Also Adam Sandler, probably Will Ferrell too. Like I feel like I mentioned about 6 guys who for about a decade or 2 decades churned out classic after classic, and then it just kind of stops. So first of all, who's your favorite out of those like leading men comedy actors?
I think Eddie Murphy's probably my favorite personally. It's not to say that he's the best, but I just really enjoyed when he had that run of like Saturday Night Live, Delirious, Trading Places, Comedy America. He just has like hit after hit, and he's doing music, and there's nothing he can do wrong. And I think to answer your question, why they go from so great to so bad, I think one of the factors is money. So they make like hundreds of millions, like so much millions, that it's like, do you really have the motivation to go back to a comedy club and work on a 20 minutes? You know what I mean? And it's like, you just fall out of touch with what actually, you know what I mean? You're like, you're not doing material that's related to anyone because no one has a £5 million mansion in LA driving a Porsche. You know what I mean? So it becomes harder for them to get. But then there are I'm trying to think of certain people who have remained relevant for a long time. It's hard to think.
I'll tell you the prime example. Bill Murray.
You think?
Yeah, I think he's more of like a cult comedy guy, but I think he has always been kind of like cool. Groundhog Day, up until like Lost in Translation, just like not even reinvents himself. But I think the thing with him is he pulls back a lot, and it looks like he does loads, but he probably doesn't. Whereas those guys, like, of course you would. just take every big thing, probably every good film that they're offered, and they're maybe doing like 4 big films a year, well, they were at the time 4 big films a year, you probably just get overexposed, and it probably does take someone with more staying power to just go, you know what, I'm going to do less, but I'm going to be around for longer. Like,
Yeah,
it's like
there's
music
that.
too. You know,
Yeah,
Kanye West, Eminem, like Eminem's prime example. Like you would have, when Eminem, after a couple albums, you were like, his albums are always going to be good. He's going to get better with age. But once you become, but when you write those albums, you're living in 1-bedroom houses or a trailer park or
yeah.
whatever, and you're writing literally to eat. And then you get to that point where you just don't need it anymore. You probably love doing it, but you don't need it.
Yeah, it's the hunger and the desire to get out of the situation you're already in to get to a better place. And once you get to that better place, it then becomes a challenge of how do I stay motivated? One of the best examples, I think, as well, is if you look at like boxers and like MMA fighters who have like a world title, and if they've had that world title for like 5 years, it's like, what's getting them out of bed to go do it? You know what I mean? They've reached the pinnacle of what they've wanted to achieve.
What about my man Andy Ruiz Jr.?
Prime example. Big man got the title and just went gives that burger, and then fucking away went.
He beat Anthony Joshua, and then he put a video that I shoot on Instagram. I can't stop watching it. Where he's obviously getting some hate after the Joshua fight for like falling out of shape and not getting back into the gym quick enough. And he's on the American football field. And he's like, "This one's for the haters." You know, everyone's saying like, "You know, I don't have what it takes." He goes, "Do you think you could catch me?" And then he proceeds to do like 100 meters. And I'll tell you what, my granny would catch him, and my granny is very much dead. like you'd catch him, and you're not a pro athlete. You know what I mean? Like, anyone
yeah.
caught him. He was like, you know, he's like, check this out, and then you're waiting for him to like. I thought he was running to go somewhere to run, but that was the run.
Yeah, I get you. But if he was to hit you a big punch in the face, you're out of it. You know what I mean? What he lacks in the speed, he got you in the boxing ability.
Do you think Eddie Murphy suffered from like almost like showboating too much, where he was like playing multiple characters in like Nutty Professor and Norbit, and maybe he was just too indulged?
There's a bit of that. Like Eddie Murphy is one of the most interesting stories in general. Like you look at how young he was. Like he put out one of the world's best stand-up specials at 22 years old. Like who's ever done that before? Like no one's ever.
I was 31 when I did the Godfather show.
Yeah, so there you go, 31, near 10 years after Eddie did fucking Delirious. But there's that, and then there's like, I also think it becomes a thing of, and who knows, it might happen to you. I mean, look, it will happen to us one day, where it's like you get to an age where, I know, okay, it won't happen to you. That's like, okay. But you get to a certain age where it's like you're no longer the new thing, and it's like there's another young and up and comer who has something that you don't have, and has like a style or an ability or a talent or a way of writing a joke that you've never did before that becomes the new thing.
Yeah, 100%. Like it's that being relevant probably that you talk about, because I think the danger is once you stop becoming like relevant with like today's culture or pop culture or whatever, to then force yourself to try to be, that's where people probably slip up. Whereas if you just go with what you are, or you know what I mean, like just don't try and just be like the old guy that you are or whatever, that probably works a lot better. That's probably like George Carlin, even though he's one of the best stand-ups all time, so he's got an advantage. He wasn't trying to be like a younger comic. He wasn't trying to be a younger guy. He's just like, I'm this like old man, and here's what I think of the world. So I don't know, like Will Ferrell's a tough one, because he's almost like the nation's big brother or dad in a way to our generation, because he's made so many great films. But now I'm like the Eurovision one, excuse me, I didn't watch. I was like, no, that doesn't look good at all. And I think with him, he's probably, and like, so here's my career advice to Will Ferrell.
Yeah, give him it.
He's probably still trying to make those same films, you know, like Step Brothers.
Yeah.
And those films just unfortunately aren't being made anymore. They're just not what connects. Like The Hangover was probably the last big film of its kind.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of the last good comedy movie I've seen that was really enjoyable.
You'd struggle. I mean, big out and out comedy, you know.
Hangover's a good shout. Bridesmaids was pretty good.
Bridesmaids is brilliant, I thought. Really, really good.
Yeah. I haven't watched in a long time, which is why I'm afraid to say it's brilliant, but it probably is brilliant.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it is.
I'm trying to remember. I'm trying to think of any ones from the last like 5 years that were truly funny. Like Hangover's a good shout. Yeah, Anchorman 2 was okay, but it wasn't as good as the original.
It's because it was the sequel, though.
Yeah, you were
followed it so
excited for it.
much. Do you know what I
Yeah.
think were a pair of the best comedy films? Going back a wee bit, but the last couple of comedy films that I was like, that is different to what anyone's doing, and it's also as funny, or if not funnier. The Men Who Stare at Goats and Burn After Reading.
I haven't seen that.
Both are. I'm gonna say that they're by the Coen. No, they're not the Coen brothers. Is it the Coen brothers? Yeah,
Maybe.
maybe the Coen brothers. Yes, yes, they are. Who made like The Big Lebowski, No Country for Old Men,
Ah,
Raised in Arizona, and they both film. Brad Pitt's in both films, is he? No, The Men Who Stare at Goats is Kevin Spacey's in it. Oh, a
oh.
couple other like Clooney's in it, and Burn After Reading's Brad Pitt, and they're like slightly wacky comedy films, but they were great. But in terms of like that big budget like film you're talking that it just doesn't really exist anymore, and I don't know why. Do you think it is because I have a theory that, but it's weird because it doesn't really happen with stand up, but in terms of like cinema and stuff, I have a theory that this sort of new generation of people our age and younger are so overexposed to everything online that
Mm.
and the whole thing is like, don't try. That's the whole thing with this generation, is like, don't try and be funny, don't try and be cool, because that in itself is cool. Whereas
Hmm.
those type of films, and especially when we were growing up, everybody was like trying to be funny in them, like overacting, big performances, like spoof type stuff. I just think nowadays it's like it's almost like you can't be seen to like be working, if that in any way makes sense.
Yeah, I think it's a lot. I think you raise a good point with the internet and online social media. Like, and this is the problem with doing a lot of sketch comedy shows at the minute too. Is that like by the time you produce something, someone has already made 100 memes of it. So it's like it's the topic. The topic is played out before it's even able to like reach any level of like script writing or whatever. So like that's an issue. And then it's like I think the reason stand up is different is because it's like the live show element where it's like things happen in the moment
Yeah.
that don't happen when you're watching a movie. Like a movie is already completely set out. So there's that excitement and that little bit of atmosphere in the air, which I think makes it better in that sense. But yeah, like I can't even remember going to a cinema and laughing out loud, which is weird.
I know. Do you remember like whenever you would have went to see films, late 90s, early noughties, and
Uh-huh.
it was like you were watching it in the living room, because what made the film so much better and more exciting was that everybody was laughing, like people like hitting their mates and stuff, and like
Yeah.
repeating lines, and that just the idea of that, like people probably wouldn't be comfortable doing that anymore. Like I
Yeah, it's
remember,
weird.
it's like nowadays people don't want to laugh out loud. Like if you in like I remember for some reason watching a news piece or something on like Indian cinema, and like and it was or maybe it was Pakistan, and it was basically like showing you like their
Like
cinemas.
Bollywood.
No, they were watching Western films, but the culture was different in that they like people are on mobile phones watching the films, people are like eating full dinners, they're talking, and they just watch
Wow.
it in a more interactive way. Whereas we have this thing, especially now, which is like just be quiet and watch a film, be quiet and watch it,
Yeah.
and you can't like laugh or whatever. I remember going to see, what was the film I went to see? It might have been The Wolf of Wall Street, where people applauded at the end.
Oh, really?
It was what's Inglorious Bastards. I went to see Inglorious Bastards, Dublin Road. By the way, gutting that is gone, because that was a staple of my youth.
Yeah.
Crazy Tuesdays and all that. But Inglorious Bastards, Quentin Tarantino went to see it in the cinema, and it just got a full blown applause at the end, which is
Was it like, was it one of the first screenings or was it just like a random Tuesday or something?
I think it was pretty new out because the whole place was packed, but it was just one of those things where like it's just an excellent film. I think it was the first time you were seeing Christoph Waltz as well, who like steals the show, and then
Yeah.
kind of like the Nazis like get their comeuppance at the end. So you are watching it being like, oh yeah. But I mean, there's probably a couple of racist guys in there being like, fuck's sake, they speak to the manager. But I just remember that moment, and I like that interactive part of going to the cinema.
Do you know, if you're talking about like interactive, like cinema moments where like you feel like you're a part of an atmosphere, a part of a live crowd, one of the best experiences I've ever had is, and it's very geeky, but like when you go to
You
those
got sucked off
midnight
of Star Wars? What?
The Force Awakens, am I right? In my pants. But
Didn't need to
no.
add that.
I did. So whenever I went to, so I'm obviously a big fan of all those Marvel Avengers movies and stuff, and they do like midnight screenings of them. But oh yeah, you get like the geeky. You think I'm bad? Like I just go like wearing like this hoodie and whatever, pretty casual. There's guys that are full grown adult men who are like in Batman costumes, which again is weird because Batman's not even in the Avengers movies.
And that man is called my father.
Shout out to DT holding it down at the Batman foot.
The original Knight Rider himself.
So you got people dress up in full costumes, but those are the people you want to watch it with because they like react to everything. Like fucking Iron Man shoots a wee beam, they're all like, yeah, like there's people cheering and stuff in these things. Yeah,
Wonder Woman comes out.
Yeah. Yeah. Popcorn just fucking everywhere. But yeah, those are good experiences. But apart from those, I can't think of any other like stuff that grips you right now. And there's no movies even coming out anymore. I don't know what the fucking deal is.
It's my ambition. I think one of my ambitions is to make something that we screen in a full cinema, whether it is a film or something that gets shown in like the Odyssey Cinema or whatever. But the idea that people are going to sit down to like see something, because people watching stuff online or TV is great, but they can be doing anything at the same time, and they probably are when I'm on the screen, if you know what I'm saying. But I just want people. I love the idea of being at the cinema to see something that I've made. To
see the reaction.
Just to see the reaction and just I don't know, like that's more of a captive audience, and I love that idea.
Yeah, it's a different buzz because when you're doing stand-up, you're on the stage, so you can't like sit in the audience and enjoy it with them, be like, oh look, there's me up there. But like when you're watching something you've produced, you can sit in the audience and actually be like, what's everyone? What's the vibe here? Like the closest I can relate to it is that there's a little film festival that the Belfast Black Box do called Film Devour, and they run it like once every quarter, and like I've put a few things in, and they always get a sold out room of like 200 people, and you're just in there, and like the way they screen it is like your stuff starts coming up and you're just sitting there. No one knows what's about to happen. It's really good fun, so it is.
Sippers, let me very quickly interrupt the podcast because we have a sponsor and it's a big one. It's the Lawnmower 3.0 from manscaped.com. What is the Lawnmower 3.0? Let me stop you there. What is happening with your undercarriage, guys? What's happening? I need to know. Chances are it's not great. Lockdowns happen. You've got dreadlocks down there. You've let it grow. And letting your hair grow on top of your head over lockdown is fine. Like I've done at the front where I've like the one-sided 90s boy band curtain. That's fine. But guys, when it comes to your pubic hair, sort it out. That's where Manscaped come in. Listen, gone are the days where you use your ma's kitchen scissors. Gone are the days when I don't know what people do in rural Northern Ireland. You take your trousers and pants off and rub yourself against a rock, hoping the friction will melt away your pubes. Stop it. Manscaped.com. They have the Lawnmower 3.0. Look at that lovely bit of kit if you're watching the video podcast. It's precision engineering for your undercarriage. Make your crown jewels look pretty sweet. That's what you need to do. And sippers, head over to manscaped.com. Use the promo code teawithme and you get 20% off and free shipping. I use this product, let me tell you. Producer Dan uses this product. Okay, and trust me, he needed to, because over lockdown, he essentially had grown what he was calling a pube fro. Now, I shit, he'll be annoyed I've said that, but listen, that's irrelevant. What's relevant is the Lawnmower 3.0 from Manscaped. Listen, we had the Lawnmower 2.0, got rid of it. The 1.0, old news. The 3.0, this bad boy here. Also in the travel pack, you get like ball toner and moisturizer, and who doesn't need that? Everybody needs it. Manscaped.com, use the code teawithme for 20% off and free shipping. But back to the pod. I think I entered a sketch or something in one of those, and then I couldn't go because I had a gig, and then someone was like, yeah, it didn't win, and I remember thinking I will not enter anything else.
Well, yeah, it's hard. It is hard to win. But yeah, it's all good stuff, man.
We should for something like that again. Like I've heard that those nights are great. We should make like some sort of very different short film, not put it online, not do anything with it, bar enter it in that, and just go and see it.
Yeah, I'd love to do that. Let's whenever everything like that comes back again, I'm totally down for it. Let's do it.
Yeah, there's so many things towards the end of lockdown, like at the start of lockdown that we were talking about doing, or you think about doing yourself, and it's going to be a case of like when everything's lifted, it's like second chance at everything. It's like, yeah, let's actually just do that thing. And I don't know, I just like getting back to stand up is, I feel like doing the garden gig a couple of weeks ago was just like a little tease, and now it's like
it looked nice.
I need back to it immediately.
It looked nice because it was such a nice evening that evening, like the sun and stuff. And I was like, oh, if there's ever a time to be doing an outdoor gig, this is the time. But look, I'm excited to get back, I have to say, and like I've started writing things again, which is really exciting, fun, and the pen and paper, and I've started putting a set list together, and I'm starting trying new stuff. And like I have to say, trying to pick it up again for the first time again was a struggle. But now that I'm into the flow of it, it's just all starting to piece together again.
To me, like, and this is maybe like harsh to say, I don't know if harsh is the word, but anyone that does stand up should have a new half hour by the end of everything being eased. Like it's bad if I think it's bad if people don't have a new half hour material. Because I get that nobody was inspired at the start of this, but I'm not saying you have to have a good half hour. Like no one has written more bad material than me in this time, but then some of it's probably good. But I just think like, yeah, people just, stand-ups just need to be writing. Trust me, this is the time to write, because there's not much else going on. And then whenever all the gigs are back on, you have the material anyway, so you're just going to perform. You're not writing and performing.
Yeah, I would agree to an extent. Like I do have I probably wrote like an hour of material, but the problem is, like you say, it's not a good hour. Like in that hour, there's probably 5 good minutes, which is fine because that's the way it goes. But I think one of the hardest, like I probably struggled for the last month to write stand-up stuff, just because I've been doing a lot of boring stuff. Like I've been doing different things at work and whatever else, and like that isn't fun to write about. And sometimes you get in a bit of a funk where it's like, ugh, I'm just doing all this other stuff that's not exciting. But I feel like whenever you're out and about with your mates, like going to restaurants, going to bars, like socializing, that's whenever you start getting better material. So I think whenever I start doing that again, I'll start sort of getting more of a feel for it. But I've wrote a few different things. I do have new stuff that whenever I do my next set, that I'm going to throw in, like, but I will stick to a lot of old stuff too, just to get comfortable back on stage.
Oh yeah, I think that's a good call. I did that at that garden show. Did a couple of bits I was doing before lockdown, sort of mixed it up. But yeah, if you can do this Sunday, that would be great. Just to get... I
would genuinely love to. I'll send, as soon as we hang up here, I'll send Vittorio a message and just say if there's any spot happening, let me know. I'd love to do it.
I think I'm doing like 10, 15 minutes, because I was supposed to I got my last set recorded to do for a charity thing, and then I did a 40-minute set, and none of it's usable because I'm being cheeky in quite a lot of it. So I'm gonna have to do another set where I'm like, "Hey guys, it's Mr. Tumble here from Sea Babies," you know. So keep it up a bit.
And that's always good for comedy, whenever you have to censor yourself.
Correct. I got asked to do a gig recently, and then my manager was like, "Listen, he goes, they would want to know what you would want to talk about in your set. And I said, no, I was like, I'm not going to be censored. I was like, been at this too long. This will take time. Comedy shouldn't be censored. You should be able to say anything. There's no such thing. The only line is the line you create for yourself. And then he told me how much money was in it. And I was like, no, that's fine. I can send him a breakdown of this.
Here's a word for word.
Yeah, I said.
Yeah. And you were like, he can change it whatever way he wants. By the way, if he wants to write the jokes, no problem. Like,
No
I'll do it however he wants to say. Yeah. Oh yeah, everything changes when money's in the equation.
I brought you on to talk about classic type comedy, classic type films. Before you go, is there an old school comedy film that you really like, but people wouldn't necessarily know that you could recommend that they go watch?
There's one night, it's from 2009, 2010, I think, and it's film. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's called MacGruber. Have you heard of it?
Heard of it, don't know what it is.
So Will Forte, who's from Saturday Night Live, used to do a sketch called MacGruber, and it was like a spoof of a TV show called MacGyver, which is a guy who salt, you know what I mean? And so he got a full movie of this made from the sketches, and it's really underground and really cult. And like the first 10 minutes, you're like, where's this going? But then after like 10 minutes, you're like, oh, this is the best thing ever. I'll send you like a YouTube link of just like a key scene and you can just check it out and see it. But the full movie, I think it's one of the most underrated comedy movies ever made.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'd love to check that out.
Is there anything that you have that's like a hidden gem of comedy that you think people wouldn't really know much about?
Rockstar, Never Stop Stopping, Andy Samberg and the Lonely Islands movie.
Good show. I've never seen it, but I hear good things.
Oh, you would love it. The problem with that was, I think it was something to do with the time they released it. There was another couple of big I might have this right, a couple of big blockbusters in the cinema, so it never got the promo that it should have, and it got, as a result, people called it a flop. But actually, it's hilarious. It's very, very, very funny, but they just got unlucky with it. Like ordinarily it would be well viewed now as like a really good film from that era. So I think you especially would really, really enjoy it. If you like any of the Lonely Island stuff, there are some key moments from it and some very quotable bits. So I'll watch MacGruber, you watch that.
All right, sounds like a good deal. I'll do that. Did you ever watch Hot Rod, the movie they did?
Brilliant. Thought it was absolutely brilliant.
I haven't seen it in years, but I remember at the time watching it thinking it was hilarious.
Yeah, it's another good, like there's a whole thing, if something isn't a big box office success at the time, it sort of gets like thrown away, but there are some brilliant films from that kind of time that like were actually very, very good. I think, although it's not like an unknown film, but Get Hard, Will Ferrell and even though I was talking about Will Ferrell is like not as good as he was, well, of course he isn't, because no one who was that successful is going to be that successful again years down the line. But Get Hard didn't come out that long ago, and I thought it was fantastic. I thought it was really good.
Yeah, there's another one Kevin Hart done called The Ringer. Did you ever see that?
Yes, I enjoyed it, about the best man.
It wasn't hilarious, but it was enjoyable and it was funny. But yeah, it's about the best man. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. All right, brother. Well, listen, I got to let you go because
here before. Oh, you're about to die. Okay.
No. I need to know. No, whatever you were going to say, I need to know it. In fact, I could just plug my laptop charger in, but here's the thing: I'm tidying. This is like the spare room, stroke my office at the minute, and I do have a little bit of a pile of clothes, and I'm sorting at the minute. So whenever I put the laptop down, if you do see the closing shot, and all the listeners, don't judge me, okay?
Well, look, we'll not judge. Just while you do that, I wanted to tell you about a little anecdote that I learned about last week, and I know you would enjoy it because you're like a fan of the Rolling Stones. Is that right?
Yes, correct. Massive fan.
So do you know the reason why? So like, right, I'll tell you the whole context. Basically, I like, as we do when we're like trying to think, well, not even when you're going to sleep and you're just like getting random thoughts in your head and you're like, wow, you know what I mean? And I had a random thought, and my thought was, how is Mick Jagger still alive? Because the guy has like just went on a complete rampage of like drugs, you know, sex, tour, like just rock and roll lifestyle. So I decided in my wisdom to Google, how is Mick Jagger still alive? And I wanted to see what it brought up. And it brought up a news article from BBC News. Now, this is a BBC News article, and it's not Mick Jagger. It goes, who, what, why, how is Keith Richards still alive? And I was like, oh, have you seen this before?
No, but I think I know what the answer is going to be, but go ahead.
So this is an official article on BBC News' website, and the opening paragraph goes as follows. His name is synonymous with rock and roll. His memoirs detail a lifetime spent ingesting a Herculean quantity of illegal drugs, and he only gave up cocaine aged 62. So Keith Richards, 62 years old, goes, going to give up the coke. It's time to call it a day. Now, do you know why he gave up the cocaine?
No, if this is what I think it is, it's a rumor, but go ahead, tell me.
Well, this is on the BBC News official article, so it's definitely been fact checked. 60. So it goes. He only gave up cocaine at 62 after he split his head open, falling from a tree while foraging for coconuts.
That is true. That's not what I thought it was, but that is true, and that makes me love the man more. The rumor was.
Aye.
He
what was the rumor?
His dad's ashes. He snorted his dad's ashes.
Oh,
but
yeah.
That never happened.
Yeah. No, so 62. Now, here's the great thing. He's did a gig one night, and it's went really well. And he's been like, come on, Mick, let's do cocaine. And Mick's been like, no, I don't want to. And he's yeah. No, I'll do it then. And
a little nose bit.
Yeah, do a bump. So he's 62, did a bump of coke and thought, I'm thirsty. And Mick went, hey, there's some coconut water that left us backstage. And now I'm going to get myself. He's went into the middle of England somewhere, found a coconut tree and went, I'm 62, should I be climbing for coconuts? Yep. Went up, couldn't get the coconut, fell from the tree.
Now, that's kind of unbelievable, but that is how he injured himself. But what's also very unbelievable is that you think that in England there's coconut trees.
Look, it doesn't detail in the article where he was, but I'm going to just assume he never leaves England. Here's the funniest, that's someone's granda. Imagine you're like, hi granda Elbow Hospital. Well, he did his wee show, and then he did a pump of coke, and then your granda thought he needed to get some coconuts for you.
Your granda still plays the guitar. Oh, God bless him. Does he? Does he play it in front of anyone? Yeah, about 80,000 people, mate. Now, a couple of things here to answer your first question. How does Jagger stay so young? Human growth hormone or whatever. You know, and probably
the stuff we're on.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mick Jagger, like you say about those guys being like Grandas. They're in their 70s, well into their 70s now. That's it. They literally are old enough to be our Grandas. So
great Grandas.
So that's the equivalent of imagine being their grandkids and being like, oh, my Granda's doing a wee show tonight. Oh, God bless him, he's doing a wee show. Where's he doing that? With fucking
the Wembley. Just the Wembley Arena.
just the biggest stadiums in the world. Also, Keith Richards. You know, people are like, how's he still alive? I wouldn't recommend this, but Keith Richards only ever does one line of coke when he's doing coke. And he says that's why he's still alive, because he's like, I do like drugs, but I would never abuse them. And weirdly, there's something very sensible about that. It's the equivalent to being like, lads, I'm only going to have 1 pint. I'm driving here. He's like, just give me a and listen, I'm foraging for fruit after this.
Who's coming with? There's a banana tree out my back garden. Oh fucking hell! Like 62 is when he stopped. Like what a guy.
Also, see, whenever I was at their Dublin show, they did a 2.5 hour show, no interval, and they perform the whole time. Like they don't just kind of.
Oh, he doesn't stop moving.
They don't not just Jagger, all the rest of the boys. They're up and down, back and forth, really getting into it. It's brilliant.
And then compare that to Frankie Valli. Frankie Valli's fucking, they're rolling him out like.
Hey man, Frankie Valli died in 2013. He's still touring, which is weird. I have never been more concerned for someone at a live concert, and it was the guy performing.
Yeah. Oh, so if you ever see a video of him now, it's not great. Like,
Well, it is great that he's still doing it. You know what I mean?
yeah.
He's
But
just like,
compared to Jagger,
I mean, he must. Frankie Valli must love performing. He must love it. Um,
yeah.
but like, oh, Jagger, like, I think that's the thing. I think if those guys stopped, they would die. They
Die.
would get old. They would
Yeah.
get really old very quickly. Like Jagger isn't old, despite what age he is. Like he's a freak.
Yeah.
He dances for 2.5 hours. Like I do 20 minutes of stand up and feel like I need to sleep for 2 days.
Yeah, do you remember that joke you used to do where it's like you always keep moving so people can't see like what the real you looks like? Like
Yeah.
that's sort of like Jagger where he has to keep moving, but it's just so he stays alive.
Yeah.
Oh fuck! I could just do a full podcast on the Rolling Stones.
I think I talked about this on maybe even last week's podcast, but your hero Michael Jackson.
Oh yeah.
In the film, this is it. Whenever Michael, the best example of someone on something to make them perform was Michael Jackson was told by the promoters, like, listen, it showed him in rehearsals, and he literally like couldn't move, he couldn't dance, and his joints were bad, and like it was like Thriller, but everybody else, like he had all these young dancers, and they were killing it, and Jacko just like couldn't move, and then the promoters were like, listen, Michael, if you don't sort this out by tomorrow, you're liable, and we're pulling the plug on the whole tour. The next day, so I was like, what's he going to do in a day? Well, all he needed was a wee bit of a sleep, because the next day, Mr. Michael Jackson was the fastest dancer of all time. He was like out dancing these 18-year-olds. All I want to say is that they don't really care about us. You know, and he did the set 4 times in a row, and I was like, it's weird that guy died of drugs, you know?
Yeah, who would have thought the performance enhancers, whenever you're fucking a walking bag of bones, was bad for you?
No, but you know, your kind of motto is he didn't do it. So
yeah, he didn't do the shows. Did he fuck the kids? Oh, sure.
Jacko is oh, did I ever tell you? I think, again, sorry to say, I think I've told this on the podcast. My cousin had, and in fact I told you this, and it's some of my favorite banter of all time. My cousin Denise, who's a couple of years older than me, had a Michael Jackson jumper. Back when Jacko was black, it was a blue jumper. She gave it to my cousin Leanne, her younger sister. The Jacko jumper started to fade a little bit. By the time my cousin Lisa got it, and it had been in the wash that many times, Jacko looked like he actually did at the time.
You should do that as a bit.
The color came out of it, and people started to say, hey, where'd you get that fresh jumper?
That's good. Whew, I miss stand-up.
Oh, yeah.
We'll get back soon enough. Right, well, that was all I wanted to leave you on anyway.
All right. Cheers, and hopefully
a pleasure.
See you. All right, brother.
For sure. Thanks. Chat to you soon. Bye.
Sippers, there we have it. This week's Tea With Me episode, the Friday episode. Have you guys got that weekend feeling? I don't know why I said that. I regret it. I don't know what a weekend feeling is. But I do know that tonight, if you're listening to this and the day it came out, Dave Elliott and I are on BBC Radio Ulster 6:05 with the Shane Todd Show, where we're just playing loads of old school dance bangers and just having a little bit of a laugh. So check that out if you get a chance. I've got questions here. Let's get to it. Connor O'Neill says, how did you get into comedy? I was always a big fan of watching comedy, of stand-up and sketches and all that kind of thing. And I just took a little bit of a notion for it. And I was 18, 19 at the time. And I told some friends in tech, like college, I was like, I'm thinking about doing stand-up. And I think I've been saying it for a while, and then one of my mates was like, here, are you just going to do it, or are you just going to keep saying you're going to do it? And I was like, I'm going to do it now. And I did it. I basically got sort of pressurized into doing it, and that was the best thing for me. So I just like Googled. It wasn't like it is now. There wasn't much social media. It was, Bebo, genuinely it was Bebo and all that. So there was no way to like really connect with promoters. You had to like, see, in my day, you had to Google the thing, and then you had to send an electronic mail to the guy who ran the club. And so I just got into it that way. Kind of pressured into it, but I pressured myself into it. Patrick Quinn, aka Belfast guy in China, says, do you have any plans to get away and let the hair down or up? Are you excited for your first Christmas as parents? do I have any plans to let my hair down? That better not be a critique of my hair, Patrick, but I don't think it is. Yeah, we're trying to arrange some sort of trip away within Ireland in October kind of time, maybe. So I don't know. It's one of those ones where, like, yes, we love the idea of it, but we'll just see what happens at the time. But definitely, it would be good to have something to look forward to, even if it is ages away. Staycation! Hey! We're doing a staycation. I fucking get angry when I see people that I know that are on holiday, because I can't do that just at the minute, because we have a baby who is selfish, because he needs things like milk and attention. So if it wasn't for that guy, I'd be in Miami right now. I wouldn't. It'd be too difficult to get there in the current climate. But yeah, I want to do a staycation. So we're figuring that out at the minute. And open the suggestions of where to go. I don't know. See, I like keeping it like not that far away from home. You know, like my friend is always recommending Donegal. I like Donegal, but you know, I also like the North Coast and all as well. I like to be able to come home at like half an hour's notice if I take a tantrum, basically. First Christmas as parents, looking forward to it? Yes, absolutely. I think it becomes more about the kids stuff. So it's all about the kids these days. Yeah, because for the last few years, you don't really get presents as much anymore from like aunties and uncles and all, which is sly, but probably fair because you're like 30. So it'd be good to like, you know, re-evolve Christmas, I guess. So yeah, looking forward to it. Willie Palmer, hey man, looking forward to getting my sipper tea. Get that sip, sip, drip. My question is, would you rather a poorly made cup of tea or no tea at all? Cheers, bro. Willie, it depends on the situation. If I had climbed a mountain and I just got to the bottom and I was knackered and it didn't have a flask and someone's like, do you want a wee cup of tea, and it was badly made, yes, I would take it. But if I'm just sitting in the house and someone I know, like a relative or a loved one, made me a cup of tea and it wasn't a great cup of tea, I would just throw it and literally throw it in their face. In fact, I'd go back to the kettle and pour more warm water into it. So it's a difficult one to say, but cheers about the merch. I want to see people in their merch as well, so send me Instagram pictures or whatever and we'll share it out. Oren O'Kane, Slim Shaney, yep, says, what's your dream set of Northern Irish comedians? Pick 3 and 1 host. What's your favourite venue to host this jamboree? Oren, you know what you're doing there, mister. You're stirring the pot, because I have so many comedian friends that are great at stand-up. And I don't know why my voice went up like that, but that's kind of interesting that I did that. So it's difficult to pick. But no, I can't do that. Of course, I've got a lineup in my head. 100%. But I can't. Let me do this. Let me slice it a different way. If we're talking legends, you know, from like the slightly older generation, no offense to the guys, I would probably have Tim McGarry, Kevin McAleer, and Roy Walker, and it would be hosted by me, because it's legends, you know. So probably something like that. But or I can't pick. Come on, for God's sake, you can't do that to me. Comedians are so sensitive as well. People will be WhatsApping me being like, "Mom, I thought we were friends." Because if anyone else did that and didn't pick me, I'd be doing that. SJ McCall, what's the weirdest interaction you've had with a fan? Probably the fella who, I've told this before in the podcast, wanted me to get up on his shoulders for a picture outside the bot. And I'd only had like 2-3 pints, so I was very sober, because I'm hard, because I could drink 2 or 3 pints and all. 4 and I'll die, but 2 or 3 is fine. This guy's like, mate, get up my shoulders for a photo here. I was like, you are really drunk? You said get up in your photo. And I was like, no, mate, because you might drop me. But I was really polite and dead on about it. And then he's like, you're a real dick. And I said, okay. And he goes, well, just get on my back. And I was like, hey, I'm not the little boy from Game of Thrones. I'm not Bran Stark. And that guy was a real dick about it. Matthew says, what age do you reckon you'll go bald? Hopefully never. Or when I'm a very old man. But my dad's got a good head of hair on him. Quite a few of my uncles do as well. So I think I'll be okay. Like, I think my hairline's still pretty much 100%. But I would consider a hair transplant if I started to go bald. Definitely. And also I wouldn't tell anyone about it. Like, I would just go away from comedy for like 4 months, and then I'd just be back, but I'd get more hair than before, so it would start just half an inch above my eyebrows. I'd go to Turkey and get it done 100%. Paul says, where's the ice cream border? I'm from Port Stewart, and I've always called it ice cream. Then I saw a sign for a Pooh Bear poke and didn't have a clue what that was. I was told it was a honeycomb ice cream, and that's what it's called in Belfast. A poke? Yeah, ice cream, it's called a poke. Although if you saw a sign advertising a Pooh Bear poke, it might have been Dave Elliott's side business. If you're walking through the Giants ring at a certain time of year, you will see boards up saying Pooh Bear poke this way, and Dave will just be there with wearing nothing but a big smile. Yeah, I think they say poke in Belfast. I would have said a poke when I was younger. The poke van means the ice cream man. Calling it the ice cream van is probably more middle class if you're into defining people like that. But yeah, they say poke in Belfast. When a guy walks up to you, he's like, "Do you want a fucking poke?" And you're like, "Oh, no. I'll have an ice cream though." Michael Kerr, this is how I want all questions to start. He says, "Hey sexy, what do you think of Ellen the Not So Generous being the most recent recipient of the cancel culture movement?" Yes, here's the thing. Whenever I read all those allegations that Ellen DeGeneres in her talk show in America doesn't have staff look her in the eye and treats people really badly, I was like, that good girl, because that's the way I like to operate when I get to make TV programs. And then when I found out she was actually getting punished for it, then I've changed my ways, and I'm actually very, I think, nice to people that work on a set. I don't know, it's weird because as much as I don't know if Ellen's on our TV, it's probably on ITV2 or something. But she's obviously a huge global superstar. Sorry, I'm boring myself. She's obviously a huge global superstar, but you always think of that show as like, oh, that'll just go on forever. I don't know, to be serious about it, it's like, if there is a bad backstage environment and there's loads of bad stuff going on, then sack everyone who was like really nasty to people, and or if there was crimes committed, like get that sorted out, hold people to account. But like, if Ellen's big crime, and I don't know the ins and outs of it, but if her crime is just being rude, hey, you're going to find that a lot of people, especially in like TV and media, are rude. And once they get indulged, like the Ellen show, like she has her own lot. I toured the lot when I was on my honeymoon there as part of like the Warner Brothers. Was it Warner Brothers or Paramount studio tours? Anyway, she has her own like huge like backstage offices and gets driven to set in a wee go-kart and all that kind of stuff. And like, I can understand how somebody would just get into their own world, but at the end of the day, when people are working, in fact, you just have to be dead on to people. If you're not naturally dead on to people and you're a dick, then that's a real shame. But if that is her crime, that, like, don't get me wrong, if she knew about stuff that was happening backstage, like I think I read about someone's like, there's a culture of like sexual assault and stuff like that. If that is the case, then obviously that's a whole different matter. But if there's like just bullying, but I say just bullying, I don't know the story and it could have been terrible. But if it's like bullying backstage and Ellen just knew about it but didn't really do anything about it, then that's weak, right? And if it's your show, you should be the one to stand up for your staff and make sure it's a good environment. But if her crime is just that she's a dick, then there's worse things you can be, and that's really unfortunate that someone that like people look up to and think is a great person isn't. But maybe you do just give her a chance to like get a bit more humble and say like, listen, if you want to keep doing your show and earning this much money, just treat people with a bit of respect. That's what I would like to see. I mean, I don't let anyone on BBC Northern Ireland make eye contact with me when I go and do the radio show or the TV show, but it's personal preference. I've got loads more questions, but I lost my place. Matthew Mernon says, how many baby names did it take for you to agree on one? I think the name we have was the second suggestion, and the first was only like ever a maybe. So we picked it pretty quick, and then I started to pick some silly ones, and then my wife was like, don't do that. So I stopped doing it. But yeah, pretty quick. Like, we were thinking about Money Toad, obviously, at one point, Sipper at one point. But yeah, then we just settled on what we settled on. So surprisingly quick. That's not a question, that's just a comment on something else. As is that. Sam Brown sends me a picture of him holding a fish and says, "Do you like my fish?" Let me see your fish, Sam. Yeah. Although I don't know if you're just a very small guy or, like, I don't know, also aka a child, and the fish is just regular size, or if you're a full grown size man, then the fish isn't that impressive. But if you're a young guy, then great job. Lewis Pratt's talking about Dave Elliott here. He says, "Is Papa Bear's hair receding? Does Papa Bear's hair receding decrease his value?" I don't know what that means. What do you mean, like how much he could be sold for? Then probably not. That is again just okay, and then we just get into some general messages. Yeah. Oh, sometimes I get really weird messages like that one. Why would you think I would respond to that? That is weird. But I don't want to mention it in case you find me and call into my house and say, "Why did you say that?" And there we go. I just dropped something very valuable. So, folks, there we go. That's the questions for this week's podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. People are gonna go, "You say this every week, mate." We're back in studio next week. We're back in studio. I don't know if Britney Spears' dad will be in studio, because selfishly I think he's taking some time off for the first time in I don't know, he was telling me like 6 years. But if I have my way, that won't be the case, and I'll get him back up to do the pod, because he definitely wouldn't let me have a rest. Maybe we'll talk about Britney Spears next week, because she's trying to get her life back from her dad in court, which is crazy that she isn't 7 years old. You know, to go to court and be like, "Here, would I be able to, like, carry my own wallet?" And the judge is like, "No, don't be stupid. You shaved your head once." So we'll talk about that next week. Manscaped.com, 20% off with the code teawithme. And check out patreon.com if you want to support the podcast that way. Sippers, it's been a blast. See you next week. Keep sipping. Get that merch on. Peace out from the Sip King.